All right, we're going to take a quick look at the first 3 phases of the new Sith raid. I have not played it myself, so this is footage that was provided by Capital Gains, and they told me that all of this is subject to change. Phase 1 is Nihilus, Phase 2 is Darth Traya, and Phase 3 is going to be Darth Traya. And then the last phase, Phase 4, which we have no footage for or no information on, is going to have all 3 at the same time. And the reason why this is important is because Darth Traya is going to be the raid reward for this event. And she looks absolutely ridiculous. So before we look at the 3 phases, the first 3 phases of the Sith raid, we're going to look at the kit for Darth Traya. And oh my goodness, my last video I said, will Darth Traya break the game? Well, if he doesn't break the game, Darth Traya will. She is amazing. She's got the 3 lightsabers and she's got the lightning going into the ground. She looks really cool. Basic attack is Deceptive Strike. Deals special damage to target enemy and daze them for 2 turns, which is amazing in itself right there. But then she inflicts all debuffs on allies to the target enemy for 1 turn. If any debuffs were inflicted, reduce the cooldown of Saber Storm by 1, which is the next ability, which is absolutely amazing. So, if someone's stunned on your team, you're going to be able to stun your opponent with the basic attack. It's ridiculous. Saber Storm does not only look cool, but my understanding is that it does a ton of damage. I saw a clip at this when I was at EA, and I was like, whoa, no. Oh, no. Deal special damage to target enemy and inflict tenacity down for 2 turns. So that's it, 1 lightsaber. Second part, if Trey has full health, deal damage to additional time and inflict ability box for 2 turns. Then 3, if the target is buffed, deal damage and additional time and inflict healing immunity for 2 turns. This attack can't be evaded. Has a 4-turn cooldown, which is also going to get lower if there's debuffs inflicted by her basic attack. So that's not going to be 4. It's going to be much lower than 4. We got to talk about her second special, Isolate, which is really cool but kind of complicated. Dispel all buffs on target enemy. All right, get rid of all of the buffs on them. Increase their cooldowns by 1. Cool. Inflict isolation on target enemy until another enemy is isolated or Traya is defeated. So you can pick 1 character to do this. I'm thinking this would be amazing, like on BB-8 or something like that. Reduce target allies' cooldowns by 1 and grant them protection up until the end of the encounter. Isolation can't be copied, dispelled, or resisted. So that means it's going to have the lock. This attack can't be evaded. Isolation. So what is isolation? Can't gain buffs. Can't attack or gain positive status effects out of turn. Allies can't attack or gain positive effects during this unit's turn. And then it also gets a special bonus against raid bosses. Can't gain buffs. Characters attacking unit gain critical damage up and health steal for 1 turn. There are all the positive effects that cannot happen when it's not that character's turn. Basically, they're like being removed from the battle, and they can only do things on their own turn. The leadership and the unique ability makes it quite a bit even more interesting. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this is going to break the game. Sith allies have 40% critical avoidance and 40% potency. When a debuffed enemy takes damage, all Sith allies recover 10% health. Now, this is where it gets really interesting right here. When an enemy uses an ability outside of their turn, think about BB-8, they take damage equal to 35% of their max health. This damage can't defeat enemies. So this is going to be assists and counterattacks and things of those type of things. When an enemy gains a buff outside of their turn, they lose 50% offense until the end of their turn. This is going to change everything as far as I'm concerned. It looks absolutely amazing. And I'm willing to bet money on this, that Nihilus, Cyan, Traya, probably going to be required someday to unlock some other character. Should I say the name Revan? I mean, if Revan comes out, who do you think is going to be required? Probably these guys. Unique compassion is a weakness. When an ally suffers a debuff, Traya gains 10% bonus protection, stacking into the end of her next turn at the start of each Sith ally's turn. Check this, she dispels all debuffs on them and deals damage equal to 5% of their max health for each debuff dispelled. And then there's that bonus synergy that I was talking about. When allied Darth Nihilus and Darth Traya are critically hit or afflicted with a debuff, Traya gains 12% offense stacking for 2 turns. So there's going to be a buff for each one of the 3. And the Nihilus one hasn't been published yet. I've actually seen what it is, or what they thought it was going to be in the build, but they haven't published it. But Nihilus is getting a small buff. And of course, Sith Trooper is getting the auto taunt at the beginning of the battle. All of this is very good. Let's go to the raid. And let me say this before about the raid. I have not played the raid myself. So I don't know how it works. This is not a guide on how to beat the raid. But I will say they said a lot of things. They want this to be a puzzle and they want the community to figure it out. And they feel that they've learned a lot from the Rancor and the Heroic AAT raid. And they said that they're taking the training wheels off on this. This is not going to be a raid that is ever going to be auto-playable. You're going to have to be able to think and make decisions and push buttons, and the AI is not going to be figured out. They've also removed the escape button, so there's no more escape button on this. Then the other thing that they did mention, again, subject to change, but they did mention some of the factions that were going to get buffs or class buffs. Healers will get a bonus, and they also said that Luminaria will now have the healer class bonus on it. And the reason why I think this is also important is, and they mentioned what it was. It looks like it's going to be tenacity HP, but all that could change. Wait for future videos on that. But they also said Visas Mar is going to be very good in this, and she's also going to get that class buff. Night Sisters and Sith, of course, are going to get a bonus. There's some footage right here of the Night Sisters, and I can't put my finger on it, but the numbers look really good. They said there was going to be a class bonus for bounty hunters. Then they also said that there was going to be a bonus for these 4 characters: Commander Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight Anakin, Grandmaster Yoda, and Jedi Training Rey. So, Phase 1, which is showing up right here behind us, is Darth Nihilus. The phase ability, which is the ability that you can use, is called Unbreakable Will. Gain Unbreakable Will for 1 turn. This unit may only use this ability once, but an additional use can be gained by defeating menacing enemies. Unbreakable Will can't be reduced below 1 health. Must be targeted by enemy attacks. Speed is minus 10%, and turn meter can't be modified. And this lasts 1 turn. And what I wrote down there is that this is like a super taunt and you can't die. And the other thing too is these bosses all get 2 attacks per turn. And then of course they have like the super ability when the timer goes down, where basically they get Super Saiyan. And then they said that he steals buffs, and I saw some footage of that with a basic attack. He gets rid of it, dispels it on you, and then it goes on him. And basically what they said is that Nihilus, the raid boss version, is going to steal everything. Let's go to Darth Traya, and we're kind of a little bit familiar with the pain mechanic on the player character. It's a little bit different on this. Now, there's a phase ability which you can inflict. It's called Soothe, and it removes all stacks of the cycle of pain and the cycle of suffering from this unit. Now, what they were saying is that this cycle of pain boosts damage, and there's going to be some sort of trying to figure out what is the correct number of pain to have on him to defeat him. Now, that wasn't really clear to me, but they said that we're going to have to try to figure out, it's going to be this game of having the correct numbers of cycle of pain or cycle of suffering on the board to be able to inflict the correct or the optimal amount of damage on him. And they said we're going to have a lot of fun doing that. And that's kind of also why they said that being able to autoplay is not going to be an option on this. It's going to require some thinking. And then phase 3 is going to be Darth Traya. Phase ability is stand alone. It says phase Darth Traya without relying on the strength of others. For 3 turns, his unit takes 50% less damage, and all other allies become suppressed for 3 turns. Suppressed allies grant this unit a portion of their stats based on their roles. Tanks will give tenacity, attackers give offense, support or healers give a lot of health. And then it says activating standalone removes all stacks of bonds of weakness from Traya. This ability has a global cooldown and can only be used by each unit once. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of stacks on them, and the 3 lightsabers and the isolate mechanic seems pretty amazing. And then phase 4, who knows, but it's going to be all 3 at once. Boy, head explodes. Good thing is that they're going to have, 1 through 7, basically like the Rancor, so maybe we'll be able to go in there at 1 or 2 or 3 and figure out how to do it. I'm sure it's going to escalate very quickly to 7. Don't know when this is going to go live, hopefully soon. And I just want to say, I specifically asked the developers if this was going to be tuned for Gear 13 level 90, and they said no comment. Now, I don't think we're going to Gear 13 at this time, but I would be willing to bet money that we're going to go to have a level cap increase from 85 to 90. They've done that on every raid so far, and that kind of makes sense to me. Plus, I know a lot of the whales have been stockpiling tons of credits, and so kind of makes sense. If they're starting to build up credits that they can't spend, they're going to need a way of spending them, and taking the level cap to level 90 would do that. What do you think? I'm hoping to get Scion in the test account in a couple of days, and there will be a ton of videos on him, especially about him being viable at 3 or 4 stars, how to beat the Palpatine, Vader, Scion, Sith Trooper, Nihilus, Nightmare team, if you will. Gonna make videos about that. First chance that I get to play in this raid, or if I get early access, I will make videos about that. So be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and if you got something out of this video, leave a like. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching, and keep on gaming.